I personally, obviously, believe that visitation is at the core of effective fundraising. And often team visits are important, and people play different roles. So I think a conversation about who does what and metaphorically who sits where is really important. Oftentimes, organizations will agree, well, these two people are going to go in this visit, but they haven't thought strategically about what each person is going to do. It's very important to go into that visit knowing what your role is. Generally speaking, I view it as one person is the conversational person and the other person is the listener. This, quite frankly, is very effective and very important often with executive directors who view, or presidents who view themselves as very comfortable talking about their organization, and out of respect for that person, the donor is often interpreted as really enjoying that conversation. And having the second person there whose role is listening enables you to get a perspective on what is occurring. As we've talked earlier, the person who talks the most is likely to think most highly of the conversation. So when one person goes, and particularly if they are not skilled at listening and more skilled at talking, you're likely to come back with a misunderstanding of where the donor.
That was great.
The donor is because the person says that's great. Well, what they're doing is simply affirming what you care about, and that's what human beings do. People want to be cooperative, but you've really learned more about your passion than you have about the donor's passion. So that role of listener in the team visit is very important. And this plays itself out in terms of where you sit. Let me give you an example. If we were sitting here and I was the listener, I would sit over here while the other person from the organization is sitting here. The reason is I want to be able to see both of you because I'm trying to interpret whether you, the donor, are responding to me or you're responding to something that you're genuinely excited about. And I can only read that from your facial expression, but I can only read that in the context of you responding to my partner in this process. Whereas if I am the listener and my team member is here talking to you, then I'm having to go like this. I am in a sense having to go back and forth. So the deciding on what role you have is particularly important. It's also important in the context of if you're visiting a couple. Many organizations say they want to get the spouse involved, but in fact the way they present the conversation keeps the spouse at a distance. And you can tell when that is occurring by where people visit. You would be amazed, particularly for men, just being blunt, how often there'll be a conversation where the husband is there, the two men doing the visits are here, and the spouse, the wife, is over here. So she is an observer of the conversation between these.
Rather than a participant.
Rather than a participant. And so the message is your husband is the important part of this conversation.
We've assumed he's the decision maker.
We assumed he's the decision maker, and that's rarely the case. Anybody who's married knows that in the vast majority of marriages, there's no one person who makes the decision. So you want to have both people engaged, unless they have laid out the guidelines of saying, no, this is a conversation for me. But where you sit has a major impact on it. I think it's also in the processing of the information to immediately following that visit, interpret what had occurred. What did you hear? What did I hear? And then through talking through that process, decide what went well, what did not, where we actually are.
And what happens next based on what we just saw
what happens
and observed.
next. Very important.